Thanks, everyone. All right. So welcome to our first ever Camp Pegasus Town Hall. And this is one of those surprise discoveries that we could probably do this in the future, even when we don't need to, in order as a way to talk to our whole community. But we really wanted to be able to speak with you personally, talk to you a little bit about, just the quick version of the thought process as to why we're shifting to Camp Pegasus at home, a home-based version of us. I'm going to tell you about it. We have some visuals, including a little slideshow to give you some understanding and assurances about how we're running it. We'd love to answer all your questions. And we know that this is not expected. This is not what anyone wants, and including us. And so we're really trying to make the best of a difficult situation. And so what we really want to do is, we thought about, canceling camp and having nothing, but then I just felt like we would be, leaving families and campers who we adore behind, to try to find ways to structure a whole summer. And so we thought, well, we'd like to open in some way to provide still structure, social connectivity at whatever amount or level that you want to or can do, and decrease isolation, and also maintain kids' social skills so we don't have too much slippage and regression over the summer, and even advance them. Everything that we did, we thought of, were just, how can we take the Camp Pegasus magic, the good stuff that people have treasured, and from all the feedback that families have given us over the last 7 years, how can we still preserve that? Another question that we had is, so can we do that in a virtual program? And another consideration is, I know that online school was very hard for a lot of kids. And so they might, on the face of it, be concerned or maybe turned off by the idea of doing even if you've loved Camp Pegasus in the past, more Zoom, what? So, we're sensitive to that too. The decision wasn't easy, and it was definitely a sad decision to not do our face-to-face camp. And ultimately, with all of our research and everything we discovered in doing research with CDC, with the American Camping Association, with other leaders and other camps in the area, particularly the southeastern Pennsylvania area, it just seemed like there was no way, even if we followed every single CDC guideline to the nines, which we would have, we still couldn't guarantee a virus-free camp. There's no way. In a day camp, everyone goes home to their respective homes, neighborhoods. Staff, no doubt, will go out to, restaurants or other places, and we'll all come back. And so it was just too risky, and we know that we just want to keep it safe for campers, your family, your extended family, our staff, and beyond. So that was ultimately the deciding factor. And then I got sad. Had to be sad for a while about the loss of camp, and then we set to work once we decided, okay, we want to provide something. Let's do the same thing we did before, which is let's try to make the best program that we can, right? And so let me shift to little PowerPoint. Okay, give me 1 second. There we go. All right, we're in business. So here we are, and this is what Camp Pegasus usually looks like. A lot of joy, everyone's together, a lot of high activity and connection. And so we were thinking about, what are those things that makes Camp Pegasus besides, activities or certain things, and it has to do with just the spirit that we come to it with, our love for our campers, and our dedication to identifying exactly what our campers' needs are, really understanding exactly the way they think, what are some of the harder parts about their social and emotional game, and then giving them what they need. And then, so we were doing some research, and so this woman, Janice Tobin, who is a curriculum developer for social emotional learning, did some writing and some publishing about research. And so she came up with an acronym that having to do with what goes into really the highest level, highest engagement, virtual learning and social emotional learning. And so she came up with REALM. And turns out we do this, and we believe that we can deliver this in an at-home version of Camp Pegasus. And so what we have is, in REALM, the first is rituals and routines, which we have built in. So rituals and routines provide decreased anxiety, provide a sense of familiarity. And Camp Pegasus all year round, or in previous years, we have a morning greeting meeting that kicks off the day where we read the rules or a reminder of what's expected, and we sing our camp anthem, and all that's going to stay the same. So there'll be some certain pieces of familiarity, I think, that will instantly transport old campers into the Camp Pegasus mindset, and then new campers will very quickly feel that, oh, there's a place, there's something expected here, and that sets the stage for everything else to come. So we'll talk more about that in a second. Energize is this idea, and I think a lot of schools did not do enough of this based on the feedback that I received. Energizing participants means doing physical things, not just on schedule, but even physical activity that's off task. So let's say it's one of our art activities, still doing something that's physical, doing a stretch, doing a quick active movement for 2 minutes in the beginning. It awakens everyone's nervous system so that they're not sagging and growing more and more tired or fatigued throughout, an online experience. So building that in, more on that. We also have a few active activities that we're going to introduce in a minute. So Energize, we know that we can do that, and we plan on adding extra energizing moments throughout the day in some of our more still periods, some of the more still creative periods. Appreciation and gratitude. This has to do with the way that we care for each other, all the targeted praise that we do, noticing when campers are asking a conversation question and being curious about others, doing anything that's kind, when they praise other people. And so we've always had a culture of appreciation and gratitude for campers, for staff, and that ultra positivity is absolutely something that we can maintain. One thing we're going to not do ourselves is to have our familiar reward system. We're not going to be able to give chips in real time through Zoom and have kids pick prizes per se, but we're still going to maintain that ultra positive, like 7-to-1, 10-to-1 noticing of positive social skills. And that language is what really encourages kids to repeat and repeat their positive replacement social skills that we teach and that they're also modeling from each other. So we know that we can deliver that, and that's a part of our. This one's easy, lighten. This means this is more for, like, I think, school, where schools need to lighten from sort of like the seriousness and sort of like informational tone that might come with education. Lighten means adding playful interactions. Well, our entire program is playful interactions with staff that love to have fun and engage the kids, and And one very key thing is that, as if you're new to us, we are not an academic program. We don't have a study period. And so truly, we are all social all the time. And so we're planning all these engaging activities. I'm going to add a little more on that in one of the upcoming slides. And mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, being present in the moment, being aware of our own emotions, sensations and insights, and being aware of others. And that's one of the missions of our program, is to notice. And all of our facilitators and therapists are mindful and helping kids when we reflect what we're seeing in terms of their tone of voice, their rate of speech. Oh, you're talking so fast right now. That's mindfulness. Additionally, 3, if not 4 of our activities are going to be centered around creative arts. And all of those activities are very mindful. The deep, relaxed focus in the moment on an activity that's creative breeds this mindfulness and self-awareness. And so we really strongly hit all of the bullet points that Janice Tobin suggests leads to excellence in quality and engaged learning experiences. So that was encouraging as we were doing this research. And so here is what we are going to do this summer in terms of rituals and routines. On the left column, we have our predictable schedule. These are things that the kids can trust will happen like clockwork, that will really help them to feel a sense of place. They know what to expect. The greeting meeting, you can see the camp anthem, as I mentioned. We're still going to do Wacky Wednesdays. It's our dress up day on different themes. Breaks, the week up. We do it right in the smack of the middle of the week, and it creates lightness, a lot of laughter, and a lot of conversation as people react to each other's costumes or dress ups. We will still be doing our social lessons. Every camper will receive our curriculum on a daily basis. And we have a different curriculum for 6 to 11-year-olds and 12 to 16-year-olds. That's always been the way. We have a differentiated curriculum there. And we also have, we alter it. We have 3 different, slightly different curriculums by year. And so there are always the core social lessons that remain, that are never going to change because they're core. But then we have additional ones. We have such a broad curriculum that each year we can sort of change up some of the other sort of higher level ones, so that kids are not getting the same exact lessons every year if you're repeat campers, returning campers. And we still have we're going to have hangout and break times. This is new this year. We always had one break. And so when half of camp is having their social lessons, and you'll see in a schedule, the other half of camp is going to have a semi-structured hangout break time, which is a total pause in structure. That's a time where kids could hang out informally if they want to stay engaged with other kids in their room, their Zoom room, or that could be a time for them to get up and move, walk away, and that is fine. We're going to talk more about that as well with regard to movement and our approach with the kids. Activities, we're keeping 4 of our faves, and we are adding 2. We are adding acting and improv, an improv theater program that has a lot of spontaneity, reading of social cues, doing a lot of listening to others. And in improv, the philosophy is saying yes and. Listening to someone's idea, accepting it, and building on it, which is all about play is based on that, and so is conversation. And so through a lot of those kind of games, we're going to be having a lot of fun, a lot of laughter. It's highly engaging and gets kids going. And we are also adding movement and dance, creative movement and dance for the first time ever in our history. And so music therapy will have opportunities for movement as well, a lot of physical movement there. If kids are jamming, we might have everyone create their own musical instruments. So you might have a little sound in your home for the duration of the music activities. And so we have a lot of engaging things to do there. And so those are the activities. We're planning 6 activities, and you're going to see in a schedule what that looks like. I wanted to just go into this. This is the one very wordy slide, but I wanted to have this, and I'll even read it to you. It's rare for me to do it this way. But here's the reassurance part for you. You know, why is this going to be different than virtual school? Is because it's us, you know, and, you know, we do just really know exactly how your child thinks. And so just going down some of these bullet points, we could have added more, but some key big ones. We know that many of our campers have short attention spans, and less so, maybe shorter for a non-preferred activity. So we have short activity periods. I think they're going to be about 25 minutes long with, you know, a transition. We have a few breaks in. We know that many of our campers have a higher need for movement and fidgeting. And that was a problem for schools. I know a lot of schools, a lot of kids that I talked with were just bristling because they were forced to sit and stay inside the box, inside their Zoom box for school. And a lot of our kids who needed to move or wander away from, you know, they would get in trouble, or there was a lot of pressure to stay in your box. And we will allow kids to move. You know, we don't have that same need to get through a set curriculum and then achieve some evaluation at the end. This is social. So if kids need to get up and pace, you know, behind the camera, they're still engaged, they're still with us, and they're moving, that's fine. So we don't have to have kids feeling like they're super contained and claustrophobic. So there's room, we get that, and we're gonna support that. Difficulty coping with unexpected changes, we know about that. So we have our very clear structure, routines, visual schedule. And, you know, if we do, as we get farther into our planning, perhaps we'll come up with a few Friday special activities. We'll give plenty of notice. You know, so we're going to be really sensitive to our campers' needs in terms of keeping it really structured with a lot of consistency. Our campers, in some cases, some of our campers, through maybe some executive functioning challenges, might struggle to sit and just to produce a work product evenly on command. We know so many of our campers are consistently inconsistent about when they have their best focus. And so, you know, in typical Camp Pegasus fashion, we are a non-power struggle program. We've always been. So, you know, again, kids don't have to feel that force, that compulsion thing, and they can back off of a certain activity if they need to. If they're fatiguing, that's okay. We also are so big on celebrating kids' individual expression, helping them find out who they are and what their voice is, that they don't feel that they're being, you know, forced to produce something that we're expecting. We're really encouraging their independence. Our campers thrive with a multi-sensory engagement, and every aspect of our program, even online, is going to be just highly engaging with their senses, with movement breaks, with even our social skills instruction has all these moving parts and role plays. So we're going to really be engaging the kids in this multi-sensory way, so they're not going to hopefully get bored. Our campers, a strength is many of our campers are super high in creativity and visual communication, and they think outside the box, and that's what we celebrate. You know, so we are going to provide structured and group activities and group interaction around their creativity and visual communication. So we can check that box, that we're going to be addressing that strength and what the kids need there. Helping our campers, a lot of times we know they have a harder time initiating and sustaining socialization in completely unstructured situations. And so we're going to provide enough structure for our campers to be successful. And we try to back off and have them be as independent as possible with just finding that sweet spot where we're providing structure, but not overly controlling everything. And that's what each of our group facilitators is really strong in. And so we have the structure, in which kids can practice their socialization. And a lot of our campers in the world feel different and excluded. They're always trying to, keep up in their mainstream environments. And above all else, we just accept and celebrate our campers for exactly who they are in the moment, always with a hopeful eye for tomorrow in terms of skill building. And our campers always really know that that's how we feel about them. And so I think that these are all the ways that we are the unvirtual school. And so I wanted to remind you just sort of explicitly with this slide, and I'd love, when we go to Q&A, we're going to be able to back up, and I'll be happy to back up the slides if you have any questions about anything I've gone over so far. But this is the overview so far. And I'm going to now turn it over to Aviva, who will talk a little bit about the schedule and enrollment and a lot of the other nitty-gritty details about the running of us.
All right. So first, I know some of you have already registered for the in-person camp, and the way that our system converted over to the online version is that your registration automatically converted to the 5-day per week, enrolled in the 5-day per week for the session that you were planning to attend. So if you would like to make changes to that, please feel free to email me. I will be reaching out to everybody by the end of the week if I haven't heard from you. But we have a very limited space this year, so I want to make sure that for those of you who did register, that we are securing your spots as soon as possible. With regards to the schedule, this is very similar to what we would offer in our traditional in-person camp, in that we are continuing to maintain a rotating A-B day schedule. So as you can see on this sample 5-day schedule, Monday is A, it rotates with B on Tuesday, Wednesday is A again, and on and on. And by doing it this way, we will have an even number of A days and B days. As you can see, they have art and music every day. They have their social lesson every day, the greeting meeting, the goodbye song, the hangout time. There are some things that are consistent throughout every day. But some of the special activities like the, and it says playroom, but that's really games and science. Sorry about that. The activities like games and science, acting, improv, the sports and exercise, and the dance and movement will be rotating every other day. And with that, the plan is to have the dance movement on one day and the sports and exercise on the other, so that they do have a block every day that is a little bit more physically engaging. So this is a sample. Obviously, the next week in this 2-week session would be B on Monday, A on Tuesday, etc. for the rest of the week. Mike, could you go ahead to the next slide?
Sure.
So this is a little bit of a change, because some of you may be choosing the 3-day option. We again are adhering to the same A-B rotation that we would for the 5-day per week, which means that the first week of each session, your child would have the A-day activities every day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And the second week in the session, they would have B days for that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they're still getting the same number of A days and B days. They just will not be alternating days of attendance. It'll be a week of each. So again, you can see there are still the same routine things that we have in place. The greeting meeting, the art and music, the same basic schedule, but the rotation looks a little bit different. And if you could go to the next one, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, of course, the 2-day schedule, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays. And this is the same idea as the 3-day schedule, but the first week is going to be B days, and the second week are going to be A days. And, as you can imagine, that just is how it falls with having an alternating schedule, 5 days per week. So the last thing I wanted to go over with you, if you could go to the last slide, Mike.
Yeah, hey, let me just quickly jump in on
Sure.
the rules. And this is one thing that returning families will know is new. And if you're new to us, we never had this sort of a la carte option. It wouldn't really work in our face-to-face camp, but in this case, we know that people might want to just try out this approach, this online camp. And also we know that there are some families who have been impacted financially by the pandemic. So we wanted to offer just these other options for signing up. So that's why we have this. So, likely when we go back to a face-to-face camp one day, we probably won't have this, but we're going to see how it goes this year. So you do have the 2-day week, 2-day weeks option, and the 3-day week in addition to 5. And if you want to have your child's first session be 2 days or 3 days because you're not sure how they're going to take to a full 5-day week online program, it's a great way for you to enter. And then if we have space, then you could expand to more days of the week. So you don't have to lock in for your child's whole time in only one thing. Again, that's space permitting, depending on how registration goes. And I guess that's one other thing that we really don't know about because it's a whole new world. Certain things about our registration process became predictable over 7 years of doing live camp, but we don't know. So with this whole schedule, we're opening with essentially 36 total slots per, is how we're planning it. If registration is so gangbusters, we could expand to a 54 slot camp per session.
Sorry, I was going to jump in and say per session. Yeah. Sorry.
Per session,
Yeah.
right. So, which is way smaller than, it's way smaller than camp is usually. So, but even if we balloon up to a six group schedule, still we would only be having 54 slots for that session. So anyway, so that's a little more background. I'm going to go to the next slide.
So the last thing I wanted to show all of you is for any of our returning campers who did register for the face-to-face camp, your invoice, when it converts over, will look a little bit funky. So I wanted to address that with you so that you could understand it. First, this is someone who, obviously I've redacted the name. They enrolled for session 2 in our full in-person program. But because of the way that the registration converts over automatically, there's no way to adjust the price other than adding a discount. So the discount on the second line down is the discounted amount that brings that down to the rate for the 5-day per week session cost. So you will see the regular in-person enrollment on your invoice still, and then the discount to bring it down to the at-home cost. And there's, of course, you can see it if you choose to pay with a credit card, there's a convenience fee for that. You can make payments by check as well if you don't want to pay the convenience fee. But I did want to make sure that everybody was aware that this will look a little bit different this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And so that's really the end of our sort of this formal intro. And at this point, we love to open it up to questions. And we're so grateful so many of you joined us. We had, I think, 30 some people at the height. So let us know if you have any questions, and we'd love to answer it, for the community. Leah, you can, you're unmuted. Good. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So primarily, I actually just wanted to say thank you for doing this. And thank you for thinking of all of us and answering questions and thinking of our kids and all of our safety. So I may have questions at some point, but mostly I just wanted to say thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks, Leah. Yeah, Mary?
Just a quick question. I love the schedule. First off, it looks fabulous. And we're new to Camp Pegasus, and I have to tell you, I was so excited when I found you guys. And then the pandemic hit. And I, along with the anxiety that my grandson suffers from, he seems to be handling it, by the way, the pandemic much better than I think most of the adults. So, but when I heard that we weren't going to be having camp, I got a little concerned, or at least in-person camp. How does like the art and the music programs, how are they going to work in a Zoom setting?
Mm-hmm. I can answer that. So we've actually been doing a lot of testing of this, and not even on purpose. We didn't know that we were going to be going to an online format, but many of you may have been seeing, we were doing this for returning campers, for past campers. We've been holding some online Camp Pegasus hangouts to just decrease boredom and decrease isolation, and quite frankly, to breathe a little life and light into my day, into my week. It's been very special, and we've been figuring it out. So we've had this accidental, unintentional sort of trial over the last, I think, 11 weeks, where we've been trying different things. We've been seeing what's working, what's not working. And so for art, for instance, we will ask families to have just basic art materials, drawing materials, just some plain paper, if you can get that. You can also let us know if you're having any obstacles to getting those things, and we can support. And so we often, so our art program is run by art therapists, master's level art therapists who are in my private practice. And so they're super experienced at assigning art activities that either are stimulating for conversation, where people will be looking away from the camera, they'll be looking down, they'll be doing their artwork, in front of each other. And normally we'd be sharing space near each other. Then we use it for conversation practice, for accepting some different people's ideas. We use it to develop kids' awareness that using question words is the very foundation of conversation. So we teach kids about being curious about other people. And then there are just other art games that you can play, and with sequencing art, with telling ongoing stories, having kids create characters that they then use for storytelling. So there's the creative aspect. There's also an assembling. If each person does something in their own tile and they hold it up, then you have a group mural that you can then take a screenshot of. So there's a lot of different creative things we can do art-wise. So that's the answer to that. And also with art, there's a lot of self-expression. And so we do a lot of work around feelings and exploring and identifying feelings, developing an emotional vocabulary, which breeds self-awareness, which also helps with self-regulation. So there's that piece as well in the art room, out of the art room. In music, sometimes there's a little bit of a trickiness in terms of one of the things that is traditionally done at Camp Pegasus is jamming. It's a little hard to jam with different instruments because of the Zoom lag. But songwriting is a lot about identity, taking turns, accepting different people's ideas, creating something new together. So a lot of times they'll either create original songs. We might be using music technology so that they can actually engineer songs by selecting something that the facilitator will then put into GarageBand, and then they can write their own music together, and they can see just how amazing it is that, working together can lead to creating something that was unexpected and really impressive. And then there are music games, which we've been doing a lot of. One is Name That Tune, which has been a huge success, where the kids are volunteering they type in the chat a different song, and sometimes we narrow it down by theme, so like Disney or TV and movies or video games, and then they request it to the leader who then plays it, and then everyone's listening with, you know, excited ears trying to guess. So we have all these different kinds of like game shows that we can make out of music. What else have we done? And then out of music, this will overlap and probably dovetail with our creative movement activity. But there's two days, what's today, Wednesday? Yesterday, the campers choreographed their own dance to a dance song. And everyone took turns volunteering like a movement or something that we would do in 4 beats. And then we assembled it, they rehearsed it, and so in this one setting. So it's been really fun, a lot of laughter, a lot of engagement, and so it was really fun. So, and we've also figured out some things that don't work and that are not very engaging, and so we are not going to do those. I won't list all those. We weeded them out. So, so that's my answer to that. And we've actually been fortunate, the way things unfolded, that we've had this chance to actually try different things with campers. And when in doubt, bring a joke book. Our campers love to tell jokes, and we just like, if we have 7 minutes left over in a session, you know, and we're sort of, there's not enough time to get a whole new activity going, we bring out the joke books, and everyone's, you know, guffawing and just loving sharing their jokes. So thanks for that question. Yes, Amy.
So I was curious about staffing, and also I just wanted to get a clarification.
Yes.
So are you saying that there's going to be like 3 separate bunks or groups, or I just want to make sure I'm like understanding that, or like the way that this is
Good
right
question.
now?
Good question.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Aviva, do you want to talk about groups and breaking it out that way?
Sure.
How we're gonna
So in each session, we're going to have essentially 4 groups. There will be 1 group or 2 groups that are rotating through the 2-day and 3-day schedule. And there will be 2 groups that are attending for the full 5-day schedule. So within each of those, there will be a younger group that is 6 to 11-year-olds, and an older group that are our teens that are 12 to 16. So is that what you're asking, Jamie?
Oh, no, that makes sense now that you put that way.
and then staffing wise, we have Mr. Don, who has been our longtime clinical director. He's one of the art people. He's an art therapist. Miss Bree is our longtime art lady for the younger campers. So they're very familiar. Mr. Chaz is our longtime Gaga and archery leader. So everyone who's ever been to camp knows him. And he's super terrific and caring. And Miss Rachel, and Mr. Chaz is a teacher. Miss Rachel is a teacher, and she's worn just about every hat in Camp Pegasus. She's also the lone remaining founding member of Camp Pegasus. And she's been with us from the beginning, and so she knows us inside and out. And she's worked in the computer room in the past, she's worked in the playroom, and she's been, for the last 2 years, she's been our camp program director. And so she is going to be in the play and science activity.
I guess I'm sorry to interrupt. I guess what I'm asking is about like whether or not there's someone like kind of who's kind of overseeing each group of kids, going like from activity to activity with them, and kind of like monitoring their growth. Yeah.
Yes. So couple things. One, we're not going to have the kids, as of now, our plan is to not have the kids have to click in and out and go to click all different links and to get into different rooms. We're going to try to work it so that the kids stay in their room with their group, and the counselors change. So that's our aim. we're still working on the technology and practicing. So we're doing our best in that department. We're working on that. And we have staff meetings every day, 3 days a week, I believe, this year, in which we're going to be reviewing the day, talking about each camper's growth and needs. So that's the same as Camp Pegasus. We always had after camp staff meetings where we reviewed the day, building on strengths and identifying any campers that need this support, or is there a certain skill that would be helpful for us to uniquely teach that camper in a little breakout moment. So that's still going to be present. That's still a part of what we do.
And Jamie, perhaps to answer your question in a slightly different way, because we will have activities leaders, we are not going to be able to have a counselor that goes there, that stays in the room with them the whole time, but we are having our core most experienced staff who know our returning campers really well, and we have smaller groups. So our hope and expectation is to be able to sort of address everybody's needs because we will have such smaller groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, I see a hand. Yes, I see ya. That's Haley.
Yes. Hi. Sorry.
Hi.
You'd think by now I'd know how to unmute. So it sounds like the groups are divided by age and by how many days a week. So I just have a question because, as you know, Vivian, my daughter, has been placed in the bunk with the students that have a little more need for support with language and with interaction rather than the very highly verbal group.
Mm-hmm.
And she's always attended with a one-on-one. But lately she's had a new one-on-one, and that would be me, which has come with some increased behaviors and issues because it's the mom and daughter dynamic and such.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just divided by age, I wonder, I guess 2 questions is how many kids in a group, and is that kind of an anticipated issue that there may be kids with a lot of different levels of skill together, which can be a good thing, but sometimes maybe the gap is too much. I don't know.
Yeah. In the younger groups, we're going to have no more than 8 kids in a group, which is less than in the past. So it's going to be an 8-person group at maximum. And with the 1 leader, we do welcome, parents. We like the kids to be as independent as possible, but if your camper might need you to be sort of in the wings to help with, anything, then that's fine. If you can't be right there, we are going to ask, just as an aside, we're going to ask there always to be an adult who's available by text, like if the child is experiencing any technical difficulties or anything else, that we could quickly text the parent. So we're still we'll be able to be right in contact with you if we borrow you for a minute to help work with something. And we thought carefully about it, and we've actually, the Camp Pegasus online activities that we've been doing have been really mixed groups in this way, and it's really been lovely. And I think there's something that's leveling somewhat with the Zoom thing in terms of social ability. And so we've found kids of every ability to really find their place in it, in these smaller groups. And so that was one of the reasons why we thought that we could manage this. It's really not going to be feasible for us to to have so many subgroups.
It makes sense.
Yeah, but fortunately, again, with the trial and error, it did seem to work, and those kids, everyone seems to be comfortable and having fun, and everyone's engaging at their ability level, and the truly special thing is just the amount of acceptance that the campers have for one another, and everyone's different quirks, or a noise or a blip, that sort of thing that happens. So it's worked. Yeah.
And where there'll be a list of like stuff we need to have ready for the day, like supplies and such.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll help me not have to be so involved, I think.
Yeah. We'll be able to get you. I think there's going to be a steady, expected. You can expect to need a certain range of things, and if we ever plan, we're not going to spring it on you so that you have to run around the house or something to find something at the last second. We'll give you notice. Hello. And we'll give you plenty of notice if you have to get, like a shoebox or some other, materials that aren't, always at a fingertip.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the claps.
Question? Hey, Mike, quick question. I hate to ask a tricky one here, but
yeah.
Can you help us understand, how you're going to try and be able to tackle being able at the end of the day or a week or a session, give us a sense of how Ben or any of our other kids are making their progress, hitting, social goals and things like that, knowing that it's going to be that there's not one counselor per group. How does that all come together that we'll get a good sense of what Ben's experience has been with you and the rest of the camp?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And it's the second biggest thing that's going to be different this year is at the end, we're not going to be writing camper reports this time around. That's one thing that we're physically not going to be able to get done with our staffing. But we would like to be able to give you more personal feedback because we're smaller. So because we're smaller, we can't do that big project of churning out all these reports, but I think we can give you some more personal reach outs. And so we'll divide up, the campers with, with our internally, and our different staff can contact you and give you some feedback about how your camper is doing. Yeah, thank you.
Jill, did you have a question?
Yes. Yeah, well, I had a question. So we've noticed when our son is on certain calls or things like this, he might be prone to want to pop open another screen and be watching Minecraft videos or doing something else and not paying attention to maybe what he's supposed to be. So I'm kind of wondering if you've thought about how to engage and interact to kind of make sure they're not just sitting there, going, not paying attention to anything that's going on.
Well, that's a limitation, isn't it?
Yeah.
In our computer lab, we're circulating with all of our staff, and we can always, if they want to poke around, we can always quickly, eyes are always on the kids. We literally have no way of knowing what your child is looking at on their screen. If they're looking at it, if they're clicking around and if it's obvious that they're really kind of zoned out, we might chat your child, is one thing that we can do. We can do it, through Zoom, you can send individual chats and say, hey, like, what are you doing? But obviously, we physically can't put our arm around their shoulder and say, hey, like, let's get back on task. That might be a situation where we would actually, if you're not in the room, we might text you and say, hey, can someone just run in there and, lend a quick eye?
Yeah.
That's another option. It looks like Leah has a hand. Do you have an idea even for us?
Oh, no, I still wish I did.
Or a problem?
No, actually, it just brought up another question that I had, which is about chat. In that, on one of the sessions that I've been on with my son, in the virtual world, there have been some inappropriate chat situations, and I wonder if there's a mechanism in place to deal with possible inappropriate chat conversations.
Absolutely. We actually,
I know we can turn off chat on Zoom, but I didn't know if that was appropriate given that we're trying to do social interaction. you know.
Yes. We actually, I experienced that too during our Camp Pegasus hangouts. One time, one camper was in a particularly irritable mood that day, and so he was filling up the chat. It wasn't grossly inappropriate, but he was just putting, filling it up so much that there was no room and you couldn't see other people's chats. Other kids were getting upset and irritated. And so when it became apparent to us, we gave him a few opportunities to stop doing it. And then, and then we said, like, if you, and finally we gave them an if-then, a natural consequence. If you're using that tool inappropriately, then we're going to have to disable it. And he mostly stopped. He did one little return to it toward the end. And so we shut it down for that day. But with that, we don't necessarily shut it down forever. Like, that's heavy-handed, and that's not actually, we still want to treat it as a learning opportunity. And so we will go back to it another time, the next time, and say, okay, you have a new chance to use it really well. And as long as everyone's using it properly, then it stays. If your group is having a hard time, then it goes for today, new chance. So if it's coming up in the group and it's obvious to one of the leaders, we'll address it that way first. That's the first step. We're going to use it sort of educationally. If it becomes a problem and one child is private chatting another camper and it's uncomfortable, then we developed a terms of use. It's Aviva, what's it called? Not terms of use. It's
rules and guidelines, like an informed consent / waiver kind of thing.
Right, but it's I forget the actual term for it, but basically it's
acceptable use policy.
It's our constitution, and we're going to ask all of you at home to go over it with your child. That includes, not fishing around on other websites, being responsible, what's expected. So we're going to ask you to go over it. And so again, and we're going to count on, if a camper is uncomfortable with anything that someone else is saying, especially like in private chat to them, we really need them to then let us know so that we'll work with you with your child. Now, if there's actual bullying, we do have a bullying policy already established. That's in the handbook, and we'll still work with you sort of from a social skills standpoint. But Camp Pegasus, whether we're physical or virtual, it has to be safe. It has to be physically and emotionally safe. And if a camper is routinely, serially bullying and is not responding to any of our mutual supports, then we're going to have that camper not return to camp. They can't continue if it's going to be unsafe for the community. And that's going to be the ultimate thing. Because again, just like with COVID, we're also, emotional safety is our main priority. So did that answer it well enough? And one more piece of that terms of use piece, which is we are asking you to acknowledge that we are just a little bit limited because we're not in the room with your child. And so ultimately it is, your household's responsibility to make sure your child's not going on certainly inappropriate websites or putting up any parental control. So that piece where it's giving you the appropriate level of responsibility is in there too. Hope that's fair. I see Jamie with a hand. Yes, more questions. Good.
Sorry, I do have to go after this, but I wanted to ask about videos. And I know for my daughter, and I know this has been the case for a lot of the kids, that they've sort of preferred to participate in Zoom sessions a lot of the time with their video off. I know that changes a certain dynamic in terms of the social piece, but I wanted to just get your thoughts on that, just because it is like a fairly common thing for a lot of kids.
It is. We encourage, but we can't force them. We strongly encourage kids, but we don't, again, non-power struggle policy. We'd rather have campers if she's, reading and listening. I just read an article today, actually, about Zoom fatigue. And one of and this article that I read was talking about how we're all trying, our brains, usually when we're face to face, we're receiving passively all these ancillary social cues from people's full body posture and other things from the environment that we're just not getting. And then when you add little Zoom lags or little glitches, our brains that are so hardwired to even try, even for kids who struggle to read social cues, they're still trying. And so on some level, and it's fatiguing to do that. And this article suggested turning off your camera a little more in Zoom meetings, even for adults. If you're doing it for work, you can still do your meeting with your camera off. And so I think to a certain extent, it's gonna be okay. When it's time to share, we might say, hey, can you turn your camera on to share? You're this, you're that. If we're doing this visual piece, we would like to know that the child's engaging, and so we'll check in with that child. We have one camper who has been participating with his screen off in our Friday teen groups. And then he turns it on for certain key moments to show us something, and he turns it back off, and this way he also can lounge back and it doesn't look like he's not engaged. Or it doesn't look like he's lounging on us, even though he is quite engaged. So we can work with that, as I think is the ultimate answer to that question. We can work with that, and it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. If that helps a child participate, that's good. If we're finding between our collaboration that that's actually your child disengaging and then going on an iPad or something, then we should talk about that, and we'll collaborate with you on how to handle that. There's a lot of these wrinkles, we can have the best laid policies, and then our kids are going to reveal all their needs and give us new creative challenges to solve together. I do see it's 8:30, and then we plan for an hour. So if you need to go to get back to family, because if you don't have enough family time, you're obviously welcome to go. We can hang a little longer if there are additional questions. And if you feel like you have a personal question about your own child's individual ability to participate or anything, if it's on the clinical side, I'm the person to ask about that end. And if you're debating, if you're curious about, wondering about how to transition, your dues, your tuition, what else, Aviva? Those are good questions for Aviva. Anything that's camper care or the financial end, Aviva's a good person to ask those direct questions too.
Logistics or anything like that.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. Bye. Are we good? Any final questions for tonight? Bye. Bye, Donna.
Hi.
Signing off. Okay, I think we're good.
I just had one comment
Yes.
to make, because my son has been participating in several of the teen sessions, and I can tell you they're fantastic. I've overheard the issues with the chat and how well that was handled by staff. And he was younger. He's in the 12 to 16 group now, whereas last summer he was in the 6 to 11 group. So this is a whole new thing, and being a little immature to begin with, I can say that everybody's really accepted him. All the campers, of course the staff have, but the campers too. Mm-hmm. All of his little immature quirks and things have been accepted, and he's really looked forward to that.
That's
so
great.
Have I. Really.
That's great. He's been fabulous.
So, we don't have Zoom classroom with school. It's all Google Classroom. They don't see anybody. Mm-hmm. So this is one social thing, but it's been really nice. The art activities, he's been into that, and he's not really into drawing that much, but he's been into this. So just for anybody who has any reservations.
Oh, thanks for that. Checks in the mail. Thanks, Donna. No, that was wonderful, and he's done beautifully.
If I hadn't seen it in action, and this is just your 1 hour thing, so I'm sure it'll be a lot better.
Yeah.
Summer.
Right. And just so you know, so we will, for this, we're doing one more week. There's 2 more Fridays and 1 more Tuesday of the Camp Pegasus Hangouts. And I think we'll open it up to our newly registered families as well. So your child could try it out on their given day. So we'll send out a constant contact email inviting you, and you can your child can come and give a little 1 hour little sample of what we do. And it's been a joy. It's been a joy to figure out. It's been a joy to figure out. So, thanks, Deanne. Yeah, they've been really fun and funny. Our sessions. That's great. All right. What else? We're here for you. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Gina. I haven't met you before. My son would be new. And is there a process that your staff is going to do in this new setting to get to know him before he would start? You have paperwork on him, of course, but for the campers that you don't know, how would that be handled?
Yes, very good. So we start with we've always started with paperwork, and all of our staff, get to, read up and just get a preliminary sense of, who's walking in the door. Also, two things. One, we will do on the day before the first session, so that's Sunday the 28th of June, we're going to still do our camper family orientation. It's going to obviously be virtual again, and that'll be a chance in half-hour blocks for kids and families to come in, meet the staff. We can meet you. It's a chance to go into rooms and you can talk to some of the staff about any concerns and strengths, and you can ask the staff some questions about how they're going to be running their activities, so you can get a sense of just the personalities and the people that are going to be working with your child. And that's also a chance to share any particular goals that you have, and we'd love to write those down. And one other important piece is that we also make ourselves available if there's a camper who is highly anxious or has an extra hard time adjusting to new things. We're also more than happy to schedule our own sort of individual play dates ahead of camp for free. There's no charge, as just a way to sort of grease that, to have the child feel comfortable and just get one sort of anchor, anchor person who they know that they know, and then they'll see camp and everything. And so we've always done that, and we can still find ways to do that,
Okay, thank you.
Hope that's helpful. Yeah.
And I apologize, I was late to join, so I missed some of the intro. Will this be available for me to view later?
Yes, so we're recording it and we will put it up on the website.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
The only exception to that would be if somebody who was here tonight contacts us and requests that we don't post it if they're not comfortable, if they revealed something, which I don't think there were very few names that were even revealed, so I can't imagine that happening. But just, we put that out as a caveat at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. What else? Anyone else? We're always here for you. We're always here to take individual, personal phone call if you want to, again, speak with me about, your child's care, social skills. I didn't actually do a formal invitation. We just started talking, or introduction. I'm Mike Fogel. I'm a 20-year social skills therapist. I founded Camp Pegasus and also the Art of Friendship social skills program, which has been around for 20 years. And this is my specialty and my baby. So, and we really just want to take care of each, as much as it's a group program, we also try to get to know each camper's individual needs and give them exactly what they need. So open phone policy.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time out of your night, and we will be in touch as we plan for camp. Okay. Bye for now. Good night.